What stands before you is the face of a monster in its purest form, an entity of chaos driven by nothing more than a desire to wreak havoc. This is Majora. For those unfamiliar, Majora is an embodiment of evil, sealed within the mask you see before you. While fearsome, Majora cannot act alone. Its power has been constrained by its confinement in the mask. Our story begins in the familiar worlds of Hyrule, where the mask finds itself in the care of a mysterious mask salesman. He collects artifacts of power, but on a fateful day, a lonely and abandoned child known as Skull Kid crosses his path. Skull Kid, mischievous and lost, stumbles upon the mask salesman and steals Majora's mask. What Skull Kid doesn't yet realize is that the mask is far more than a mere trinket. It slowly begins to warp him, turning an already troubled child into something far more dangerous. In the opening scene of Majora's Mask, Skull Kid, emboldened by the power of Majora, plays a cruel prank on Link, our hero, stealing his precious ocarina. What begins as a chase through the woods leads Link and Skull Kid to a massive tree, where both of them fall into the depths below. When Link regains consciousness, it becomes clear that Skull Kid is no longer the playful trickster he once was. The mask's influence has taken hold, corrupting him entirely. Now filled with malice, Skull Kid taunts Link, hurling insults and cruel laughter. In a display of terrifying power, Skull Kid uses the mask's reality warping abilities to transform Link into a Deku Scrub by binding the soul of a dead spirit to him. As Skull Kid laughs maniacally, he leaves our hero in this cursed form, thinking he's trapped forever. This is when Link finally meets the masked salesman, who has been supposedly following him this entire time. He asks our hero to retrieve the mask back, and as Link agrees, he takes his first steps into Termina. Upon exiting the underground dungeon, you are greeted by the sight of a moon with a face pure of malice and terror. Unbeknownst to you and the people of Termina, this moon is crashing. The fateful 72 hours the masked salesman gave you to retrieve the mask is the exact amount of time it will take for the moon to descend and destroy Termina. Our hero has just 3 days to stop Majora, but what he faces is far worse than he expected. Majora's influence has plunged the land of Termina into chaos. The people are anxious, their lives are unraveling, and a dark sense of dread looms over the festival of time. What was once a celebration of time's passage now feels like a countdown to disaster. And on the third and final day, as the festival reaches its peaks, the clock tower opens, giving Link the chance to confront Majora. But as a Deku Scrub, he knows he cannot win this battle. Instead, he focuses on retrieving his ocarina. And after retrieving it, he plays the Song of Time to reset the clock, and bring this 3-day torturous cycle back to its start. Now restored to his true form, Link must embark on his true quest, to stop Majora, prevent the moon's fall, and to save the people of Termina from their impending doom. Now that you're acquainted with the first hour of the game, let's discuss what makes Majora such a compelling and actually terrifying monster. Following these examples of Majora's actions, let's contrast them with Stephen King's Danse Macabre and its 3 monster archetypes. I personally believe that Majora fits into a hybrid of all 3 archetypes, them being the thing without a name, the vampire, and the werewolf. Let's first describe the thing without a name, described by Stephen King as a monster or a mutant, a creature from another world. This perfectly captures Majora's alien nature. Throughout the game, we collect masks from deceased people of Termina, but none replicate the horror and unease of Majora's mask. While the other masks feel hollow, missing any trace of humanity, Majora's mask is fully adorned with spikes, vivid colors, and monstrous features not seen anywhere in Termina, or even Hyrule. It stands as a true anomaly, a foreign terror in a land already filled with monsters like skeletons, zombies, spirits of the dead, dragons, etc. Next, Stephen King describes the werewolf archetype, which represents the primal, brutal beast buried deep within us. At the beginning of our story, we see that Skull Kid starts as a harmless, lonely child, but under Majora's influence, his innocence is twisted beyond recognition. What begins as simple pranks morph into something far darker. Majora blurs the lines between harmless mischief and cruel torture, and using Skull Kid's sadness and isolation to fuel Termina's destruction. By the time Majora has fully possessed him, it's unclear if Skull Kid even knows the harm he's causing, or if Majora's control has consumed him completely. Now, to speak on the most pertinent archetype, I think, is the vampire archetype. which Stephen King describes as solely existing to drain the good from the world around it. And I feel that Majora embodies this in every sense. From the moment we encounter it, Majora's actions are designed to suck the joy and life out of everything. Link, an innocent child searching for a friend, is thrust into a world where he must face the harshest realities of life. The meaning of loss, the death of a child, the death of a parent, and the struggles to survive alone in a world where nobody is safe, and unrequited love from someone you deeply care about, the breaking down and depression of someone's spirit after the sudden loss of a friend. The people of Termina suffer under Majora's chaos, their spirits broken and their hope drained. All of this for Majora's twisted pleasures as it watches the world crumble and burn around it. But you know what's the most insidious part? Majora knows Link is the hero of time and deliberately pushes him to his limits. The 72-hour time limit is a psychological trap designed to break Link's spirit. Even as a player, you feel this pressure. You're given the choice to save everyone in Termina, but the overwhelming task, repeating the same 3 days over and over, feels nearly impossible. You're forced to confront the cruelty of Majora's design, wondering if you would have saved everyone in real life, or if you would have just let them all perish and given up just like you did in the game. Moving away from Stephen King and moving towards Sigmund Freud, we could observe his writing of the uncanny. He explores concepts like animism and doppelgangers, which could describe the eerie world of Termina, but since we're focusing on Majora itself, we turn to Freud's thoughts on human primality and animism. Freud writes, "Our analysis of instances of the uncanny has led us back to the old animistic conceptions of the universe, categorized by the idea that the world is peopled with the spirits of human beings. This reflects how early humans saw the world as alive, full of spirits and supernatural forces. Majora fits this perfectly. It isn't just a mask, it's a spirit or force brought to life. Throughout the game, souls literally turn into masks, reinforcing this animistic view. Majora itself acts like a reincarnated spiritual being, bending reality just as ancient people imagined spirits controlling the world around them." Freud continues by saying, "By the narcissistic overestimation of subjective mental processes and the belief in the omnipotence of thoughts." Here, Freud describes how early humans believed that their thoughts alone could control the world. A narcissistic overconfidence in their own power. Majora embodies this completely. It acts like a god, believing its will alone can reshape reality. It wreaks havoc simply because it finds destruction entertaining. Majora's belief in its own superiority mirrors Freud's idea of the omnipotent thought. The mask doesn't just hold power, it assumes it can control every aspect of Termina. From pulling the moon down to corrupting Skull Kid, it turns Termina into a dark playground, as if people are mere pawns in this monster's twisted game of chess. Now we reach the final question. Is Majora scary? On the surface, as long as Majora remains sealed in the mask, it's unsettling, but not overly terrifying, more uncanny than anything else. But as we know, Majora isn't just the mask, it's a demonic being that lives within it. And when the game reaches its climax and Link faces Majora on the final day, we see the true form of this monster. Majora stretches out from the mask, its body twisting into strange, tentacle-like shapes. And in this initial form, it's bizarre and it's otherworldly. It's not quite human, it's not quite monster, it's something in between. As Link battles Majora, it evolves again, becoming more humanoid, but still unnatural. It tries to mimic human movement, it jumps and it stumbles, but it's awkward. It's like watching something that's unfamiliar with its own body. It clumsily trips when you hit it, it stumbles when it gets up, and it even moonwalks like Michael Jackson. This uncanny movement can be best described as watching an AI learn to walk through endless trial and error. And just when you think you figured Majora out, it transforms one last time. This final form is the most disturbing. It's a twisted, almost adult-like figure, resembling a dark reflection of Link himself. Some might even interpret it as Majora's attempt to mimic the fierce deity, the powerful mask that Link wields after saving everyone in Termina. But unlike Link, Majora's final form is grotesque. The mask wraps around its torso with a single eerie eye and a strange, unsettling grin. And instead of a sword, Majora lashes out with flesh-colored whips, desperately trying to defeat the hero it's tormented for so long. So we ask the question again, is Majora frightening? Absolutely. Majora is terrifying because it embodies our deepest fears. It's the doppelganger that mimics us at our highest points, the demon that haunts us at our lowest, and the monster that tempts us when we're weakest. Majora is the purest incarnation of evil, a being that twists, corrupts, and bends reality to suit its own cruel desires.